Yeah. All right, and we are live, and I'm here with Matt Forney,
Hey everyone, ho ho ho.
and we're here to we're here to figure out what Matt Forney hates Christmas. Um, so I said on a stream, I guess last Saturday, a week ago Saturday, a week ago last night, that I loves me some Black Friday. I loves me Christmas shopping in general, the Christmas season in general, and I think a lot of the counter signaling against it. Oh, I don't go out like all the sheeple is kind of faggy. So then Forney had a stream and he was all like, no, your consumerism is what's faggy. So just gonna have a back and forth here. It's gonna be a grand old time. But first, I would address a couple of points from Forney's stream. I guess what was it, Monday night?
Yeah, it was Monday.
All right. So you talked about blue laws. Now, I don't like blue laws at all. These are laws generally that you're not open on Sundays and also holidays. I don't like blue laws at all. A couple of years ago, I was working 6 days a week. I I did my 40-hour day job. I did another part-time job Saturday morning. I did the stream Saturday night. Sundays was the only days I have, and it was quite the pain in the ass how many things were either closed or not open entirely. And as a Protestant, I read the Bible that Christ warns numerous times about being legalistic about the Sabbath. I think the Sabbath was made for man, not the inverse. And one of the big reasons the Sabbath existed is because people could work themselves to death working 7 days a week. You need to take a day off. I don't necessarily believe it all needs to be the same day off for everybody. Because one of the ways I like to relax is go places, get some shit done. And so that's my problem with blue laws. Because I know you addressed them. You talked about they have Christmas markets in Europe. I'm not enamored. I'm not nearly as enamored with Europe as you are. Period. I happen to think our ancestors left the old world for a reason. I think Europe is a goddamn trash fire. For fuck's sake, in about a month they're about to outlaw memes. So I'm not going to take my cues from Europe. Yeah, farmers markets are cute and all, but I have no interest in getting. No kid wants a pony action figure. I don't know, a little wooden horse action figure. Maybe V wants one of those, but most kids don't. And what was the other thing I wanted to address real quick before we got into back and forth of it? Um, I guess those were the main things. Europe is gay. Pony action figures are gay. Blue laws can eat my ass. Those are a couple of main points. Um, yeah. Oh, and the other thing, I know the other thing I want to address real quick right off the bat is everybody wants to whine about these clerks having to work Thanksgiving night. I have zero sympathy for that. I have not one molecule, not one subatomic particle worth of sympathy that these clerks have to work on Thanksgiving night. Now, I have a great deal of sympathy in general for people who work retail and restaurants. I've worked both those. They can be extremely shitty. If they want to complain about the fact that they make piss more money, I feel you. If they want to complain about the fact that dealing with customers is a pain in the ass and often a nightmare, I feel you. But I got to be honest, the schedules, that's the one thing I miss about those kind of jobs. The flexible schedules. The fact that if you're working one of those things and you want next Thursday off, odds are if you get to the boss before they write up the schedule, you're fine. You don't have to use sick days and holidays and any of this other shit. And working a blue collar job, I have to. I miss that flexible schedule. So I don't have a great deal of sympathy for these clerks whining about the one part of their job that is usually an upside. Oh, so you had to work Thanksgiving night. Whoopie jack shit. Lots of people have to work Thanksgiving night. Nobody sings a sad song for the nurses and the doctors and the policemen that have to do it. Nobody sings a sad song for gas station attendants who have to work holidays constantly and make minimum wage. Nobody wants to sing a sad song for the blue collar workers that constantly get forced on holidays. Hell, my one cousin missed several Thanksgivings in a row because the printing company he worked for constantly forced him in over that weekend. So yeah, the idea that clerks have to work, the guy working at Target might have to work Thanksgiving night. I don't have a bit of sympathy for him. First of all, most people eat dinner at like 1 p.m. on Thanksgiving for some reason. I don't know why that's a thing, but most people do that. So you still have your little activity, but whoopee jack shit. You want to whine to me about the one part of your job that's usually an upside? I don't want to hear it. So
No, that's a lot to unpack. I'll take this point by point. The first with blue laws, I can get that they can be too restrictive. The most restrictive state in the U.S. with regards to blue laws would be North Dakota. And they used to be a lot stricter. I've just experienced this firsthand working when I lived in North Dakota, working in the oil fields. The Williston boasts a 24-hour, at least it did. Maybe it's gone now because the oil boom has gone bust. They boast a 24-hour Walmart that was not open 24 hours because they were legally required to close at midnight on Saturday and were not allowed to reopen until noon on Sunday. It used to be that you couldn't have anything open on North Dakota on Sundays unless it was deemed necessary. Gas stations, hospitality, etc. They adjusted that law because I think back in the 90s they had a major snowstorm and people couldn't get supplies because it happened on a weekend. But at the same time, I think there's a role for mandating a day off in some respects, because without that, we've seen employers will just work employees to the bone.
Oh, I wouldn't be opposed to, say, a law that said that something along the lines of an employer has to be, maybe they don't even necessarily have to take it if they're a big workaholic, but you have to allow your employees one day off a week. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
There has to be something, because a few years ago,
I don't think
at the height of the Tea Party craze, Wisconsin wanted to overturn their blue laws just so they could make retail workers and just everyone work 7 days a week without any sort of reprieve. That's just fucking savage,
No, I don't support that at all. I don't want everything to shut down at the same time is my main point. I'm all for, you should not work 7 days a week, certainly not long term. That's incredibly bad for you. But I mean, when I worked retail and restaurant, like when I worked Burger King for a couple of years, and I was actually making more than most of the grunts because I didn't mind closing. But I told them basically when I was hired, I was like, give me Wednesdays off, because I knew my girlfriend at the time had it off. We would hang out. I'd go get some comic books because I'm a big old nerd, and I'd read comic books while she took forever to get ready to wherever we were going. And that was my Wednesday. That was my chill day off. I usually had, if they were slow, maybe one other day off a week. Because I mean, most of the kids would work like little 4-hour shifts. I worked like 8 to 10-hour shifts usually when I was working. But yeah, you should have a day off. I don't dispute that. I don't want to see all of us have to work 7 days a week. But at the same time, damn it, when I'm off, I want to be able to go to the store.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mentioned that in the context of if you recall years ago, Aaron Clarey went on a road trip through Europe and he didn't like it. And one of his complaints was that there's just nothing open past 24 hours, which I think is an exaggeration in his part, because I've been all over Eastern Europe and parts of Western Europe. And lots of stuff tends to be closed on Sundays. Not everything is closed. If you need go to a convenience store, you can find 24-hour convenience stores. The only time I've ever had trouble finding an open store was earlier this year. I had to go through Poland on Easter Day, and everything was fucking closed. Like I was in Western Ukraine. I take the train to Poland. I don't eat anything in Ukraine because I figure, well, they're not celebrating Easter because they're an Orthodox country. They have it on a different day. I figure I can just go to Poland on the way to Poland because it'll be bigger. When I get to Przemysl, the first city I have to stop in, the train, everything is closed save for the train station itself and one currency exchange. And I figure, the next stop is Krakow. That's a major city. There'll be something open. Everything in the Krakow train station was also closed on Easter Day. I had to walk all the way down to the old town to find an open restaurant. But I don't mind that. But aside from that, I haven't had any issues finding places that are open. The blue laws here are more restrictive, but they're not so restrictive that they can't. And like Easter and Christmas Day, like if you're a normal person, you've got like family and stuff. I don't expect the law to cater to some weirdo like me who's traveling on a major holiday.
I don't necessarily need to go to the store on Christmas Day, but the Sunday thing, and it's not that bad in this area, but where I'm at, it can be quite the hindrance. Hell, I mean, I'm working second shift, and it's just trying to get a damn haircut is like booking a fucking.
Let's say, and as for point number 2, I think you can criticize like the dumber aspects of pan-European politics without throwing out the good things, And yeah, blithely imitating Europe is stupid, but America has its own culture beyond, this is something that idiots like to say. America has no culture beyond consumerism. Yeah, maybe that's true now, but that wasn't always true. There's native folkways in America that stretch back hundreds of years. Beckloff, you're from Pennsylvania. Whites have inhabited Pennsylvania since the 1600s. There are unique Pennsylvanian ways of doing things. Some of them you find are annoying, like say the Amish, but the Amish are not the totality of Pennsylvania culture. Why not celebrate that instead? Why not go back to that instead? Why does everything have to be like huge malls with the same shitty brands, the same people, the same obsession with plastic crap? I'm not saying don't enjoy that stuff. Yeah, you're right. That kids would prefer a video game over a wooden toy. But there's something charming about a folkway, a culture that's existed for hundreds of years. And again, Americans do have that. It's a lie that we don't. I would like to see more emphasis on that as opposed to just some shitty consumer culture based on stuff that people are just going to forget.
Well, if I'm being honest with you, I don't. Me personally, I don't really do the Black Friday stuff much. If for no other reason than to get actually good deals, you have to, at the very least, get up insanely early in the morning. If not, be waiting in line. And I'm not a morning guy. But also, I don't. I do my Christmas shopping incredibly early. I do it for months in advance. I actually take the time to look for unique things. I have a lot of nerd friends, obviously, and I like to do a lot of the shopping at all the nerd cons, the comic cons, and the video game cons and shit like that, because that's where you find the really oddball stuff. I try to keep my eye out at least a couple of months in advance, because I don't want to rush to the mall on Christmas and just grab the same thing everybody else is grabbing. So I get you on that. I mean, I'm busting your balls here, but I'm not totally in disagreement with you.
I think my problem with it is the fact that Black Friday just seems to be encroaching on Thanksgiving, and Christmas itself seems to be encroaching on Thanksgiving, which annoys me because Thanksgiving is a uniquely American holiday. Yeah, I know you Canucks got your own Thanksgiving. Fuck you, we don't care. America came up with the idea of Thanksgiving. It's part of our culture. It's something that's genuinely unique. Yeah, it's not that huge big deal. Yeah, you eat turkey. Yeah, you watch some football with your family. You talk to relatives, whatever. But there's a nice simplicity in it. I didn't used to like Thanksgiving as a kid just because we always preferred Christmas because you've said it, the same thing. On Christmas, you get presents. On Thanksgiving, you just eat turkey. But as you get older, you start to appreciate it more because, well, you're cutting out the getting stuff aspect of it, and you're learning to appreciate the familial and relationships and friendships that you have, because, well, you never know when these people are that you love and care about are going to be taken from you. And I've started to appreciate that a bit more since dealing with some tragedies in my life over the years. I've started to appreciate my family more because, well, eventually, my mother's going to be gone. My father's going to be gone. I haven't been able to go to visit anyone for Thanksgiving the past couple of years because I've been in Europe, and it's something I genuinely miss. I don't like the idea that people that retail workers have to go work open the store on 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving to serve people. I don't like the idea that people want to go shopping for deals starting on Thursday, camping out or going to the store. If you want to shop on Black Friday, yeah, but do it on Black Friday. It should not be Black Friday plus like Black Thursday evening.
Well, the Thanksgiving thing's kind of a new thing. I don't think that's more than really 10 years old, if that, when I first saw it begin to pop up. But again, though, I don't even know if it's that much of an encroachment on Thanksgiving. I mean, most people I know do Thanksgiving dinner insanely early. I mean, like, I think the 3 at the latest people tend to do it. I mean, people eat basically Thanksgiving dinner is lunchtime for most people. It's something, it's like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Everyone decides to eat. That's when we're eating dinner. It seems like maybe some people do that differently, but vast majority of Thanksgivings I've ever attended have been insanely early. I don't know that a store opening at 6 or 7 in the evening is all that much of an encroachment on it, to be honest.
Well, I mean, even if they are eating Thanksgiving dinner early, I think the day itself should just be kind of sacred. I think there should be spaces carved out where we're not pursuing the American Puritan religion of work and spending. Okay, and that's something I think. I think that Europeans do a lot better. Like a lot of them go in the opposite extreme. You got fucking lazy, Dagos and greasers who will riot if anyone approaches on their 5 weeks of government guaranteed vacation time. But I think there's a happy.
It's not called the Catholic work ethic for a reason.
I think there's a happy median between being some lazy Greek fuck who spends all day smoking cigarettes instead of working, and having to and being worked to the point where you go insane. I just think I think the work-life balance in America is utterly out of whack.
Well, I will agree, and I my current day job, they're thinking they might want me to work Christmas Eve, and the HR lady told me when I asked her, we haven't decided anything, and I looked at her, I said, well, I've decided I will not be in that Monday. Whether or not you wish me to come in that Wednesday is up to you, but I will not be in that Monday. But I don't know. I've seen numerous times over years. Like I said, my one cousin, it's my dad's cousin's son. I don't know exactly what kind of cousin that is to me. But over the years, working for this company, Quebecor, that was then Diversified Printing, that was then whatever, this big printing place that was big in PA for a long time. I mean, they worked him Thanksgiving constantly. Now, they gave him, holiday pay for it, but they also, come in or it counts against you kind of thing. And I saw that numerous times with manufacturing, printing, those sort of blue collar jobs for decades now. And no one ever sang a sad song about it. And it's only now that some Target employees got to work Thanksgiving evening that we're all, again, you work retail, your schedule is the one upside to your job. I'm not necessarily all that sympathetic to you.
Well, I'd argue that number one, like blue collar workers generally work in better environments or are getting paid better than retail workers.
True,
but again, because they're doing something more useful.
Generally speaking, if you're working a Target job, your schedule is way more flexible than that guy working a blue collar job.
The other is number two, and I experienced this firsthand. Yeah, your retail job is flexible on paper, but if you take like days off, the management, there are exceptions, obviously, but my experience is that management is not amenable to those changes. Like they'll do it, but they'll do it with gritted teeth, and they'll find an excuse to get rid of you if you keep it up. It's like the whole advertising for the gig economy. Go drive with Uber or whatever. You can set your own hours. Yeah, you can set your own hours if you're an Uber driver. But whoops, you have to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week just to make minimum wage. It's getting worse with both the hollowing out of the productive economy, the hollowing out of manufacturing, and the labor surplus created by all these illegal aliens and just legal immigrants, unskilled immigrants being brought in. It's an absolute race to the bottom.
That's definitely a problem. But I mean, really, you're not supposed to be trying to live off of a retail job. That's supposed to be some sort of a part-time job you have when you're retired, or a starting job you have when you're a dumb 18, 19-year-old kid or something. You're not supposed to be, living off that.
I don't care for the whole fight.
The real problem there is the gutting of better jobs and the immigrants, but it's not, again, it's one area that, and I'm very sympathetic towards people that work those jobs. Again, I worked those jobs for a while. This is just not an area I have sympathy for them. Okay, one time you got forced in on a holiday, you can have any other Thursday off. Me, if I want to try and get something done during the week, I got to fill out paperwork 3 weeks in advance.
I look at it this way. Like if we had a normal functioning economy, it wouldn't really be an issue because the only people working retail would be, teenagers, college students on their summer off, or, like you said, like kind of retirees. But I just don't like the idea. I don't like the idea of this libertarian globalist idea of just driving everything down to the lowest common denominator. I mean, to give an example, years ago I did some part-time work for the New York State Labor Department where I was going to various programs designed to help unemployed people find jobs at various offices in upstate New York, and just sitting through them like the government version of a mystery shopper. I would just pose as a jobless individual and see and evaluate the program to see if they were useful. And there was one case where I went to the labor department office in Oswego County, and they had a program that was designed to teach unemployed job seekers how to set up email addresses and use Microsoft Word. And when I first was told about this, I'm like, who the hell needs to be taught how to set up an email address in the year 2013? That's when this happened. Turns out you got like these borderline illiterate factory workers who worked for the factory their entire life. They probably high school at best. They weren't rich, but they were able to buy houses, have kids, have a normal middle class life. And then, when they're in their late 50s, early 60s, the factory decides to close up and move to Mexico or China. And because their pension's bound up with that as well, they've got nothing. So they have to go back to the workforce, retool for what's the glorious job that they're retooling for, that they're learning how to use the internet for? Being a Walmart greeter, because Oswego County has one of the highest unemployment rates in New York State. There's nothing going on there. It's meth. It's meth and opioid epidemic central there. And so these people are being expected to retool, at an age where they're the least capable of picking up new skills, just so they can be a Walmart greeter. Like, I find that whole thing just deeply offensive. And I find a culture where people like that are being driven to not only work these shitty jobs and expected to sustain themselves off them, because God knows the New York State government doesn't have any fucking better solutions. I find the idea of them being forced to do that offensive, and I find the idea of them being they have, like I said, on paper they have the choice of a flexible schedule, but the reality is that they don't work. If they don't work those hours, if they don't work on Thanksgiving, they will either not be able to make enough money, or they'll just get fired and replaced with someone who is more compliant, because it's an employer's market. I mean, this is not necessarily the fault of retail industry. It's a big systemic problem, like you said, going to the hollowing out of the economy. But I just look at the whole thing and I just get disgusted. And I get disgusted at people who take these people for granted. Yeah, there's shitty retail workers. There's plenty of them. I had to work at a Kmart that was had a diverse clientele. I'll put it to you like that. But that's not an excuse to go and shit on people who have less power than you. There's something really deeply, disturbing that's a common thing in American culture.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see that, but like I said, this is generally speaking, they have flexible schedules. Now, I understand a lot of them are in bad situations and they have to work a ton, but generally speaking, it's generally the upside to their job. It's arguably the only upside. But there it is. So that's why, I'm like, okay, you had to work Thanksgiving, whoopee jack shit. I've had to work a bunch of holidays myself. It sucks, but there you go. And yeah, it goes to a more systemic problem. I mean, the economy was especially gutted these last, we dealt with Bush's recession that became Obama's economy for about 8 years there. Thankfully, we're seeing some pickups here. Not enough to really solve the problems, but we're seeing a little bit of a resurgence.
I'll address that point too. The idea of having an economy based primarily on consumption is not consumption of crap. Let's just be real. A lot of it is crap.
Well, yeah, but it's not. We're not just seeing the retail bounce back. We're seeing some modest returns in things like manufacturing and all. I mean, we are seeing some modest turnaround. Now, it's not enough. It's not fast enough. There's still major problems, but you've seen some pickup here. And it's not just retail that's picked up. It's just in general. I mean retail picking up in general is the result of people having more money in their pocket, and B, being in a better mood. The fact that people want to go back out on Black Friday indicates that a lot of them are in a better position. And I like that. That's a good sign. whether or not they, they're buying the nicest stuff or whatever, that they're more hopeful. That's a sign that they're more hopeful. And like I said on a couple Saturdays ago, I mean, I remember when that had died down, like, holy shit. I didn't like seeing it gone. And 10 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, this is all stupid. I'm done my shopping before Thanksgiving. I'm not like these sheeple. But then I saw it go away, and I didn't like seeing it go away. I might not have liked it, but I liked it even less when it was gone. Because of the implications of that. So the idea that it's kind of coming back a little bit, I think, is a good sign. Yeah, there's major problems. Yeah, it's there's a lot of good that needs to be done before we're back where we need to be, but I'm taking it as a small step in the right direction.
No, that's a good thing. But the problem is that, again, having the economy based on consumption of this stuff is just not a good thing. I mean, what's going to happen when the economy dips down again? And pretty much every economic indicator, everyone is predicting that there's going to be a recession, another recession between now and 2020. What's going to happen when we try to? What's going to happen again? We're going to see the retail sector go bust. The recession will probably start with the tech, with Silicon Valley, of all these massively overvalued, social media companies that aren't producing anything. It's probably going to start with Facebook. If you've been reading up how George Soros has been waging war against Mark Zuckerberg because Zuckerberg wouldn't sell out to him. And then when that happens, well, we're going to be back in the same position where we are in 2008. Only we're going to be poorer, dumber, and it's going to get blamed on Trump. It's going to get blamed on the Republicans. This is not something that can be sustained. Any other thing too you have to consider? People feel more confident, but what are their incomes based on? Every economic indicator shows that like a vast majority of Americans have barely anything in savings. They're leveraged to the hilt with credit card debts. That's probably what they're using to pay for all this stuff. When that all goes south, I mean, most people are going to be up shit creek. I don't think that culture should be encouraged. And I don't think the culture of you don't have a Black Friday per se in places like Europe, but people go out holiday shopping. If you go to a mall in Budapest or Warsaw or Tbilisi during this time, it's going to be packed on any given day. But Americans, and including white Americans, okay, I know the Dindus act the absolute worst, but white Americans are way, way crasser than Europeans in this regard. If you could act normal when you were going out holiday shopping, it wouldn't be that much of an issue. But there's something there's something in the water in America, from my observation, that just makes people feel like they feel entitled and feel free to just shit on people who are beneath them. There's something disgusting about it. Particularly, I think it's in my observation, it's concentrated among boomers. They've got this fucking attitude that if you're working in retail, it's because you're a loser who needs to go and get education. Even though fucking college graduates end up doing those kinds of jobs because there's nothing better for them. I just don't like the entire thing, and I don't. Without some sort of major reconfiguration of the economy towards producing actual stuff instead of retail or service-based economy or financialization, America is in for hard times ahead.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be some minor reduction in production-based economy, because I mean, technology will always continue to get better, and while you can slow that down through regulation, you never completely keep that genie in the bottle. I mean, so there may not always be a need for somebody to make this or that widget because maybe only one guy has to watch the 40 robots do it. But there's always going to be a need for service-based stuff. I mean, generally speaking, markets will, with some guidance from proper regulatory forces, I think generally speaking, markets tend to form an equilibrium. I think our biggest problem in America that drives down wages and drives our cost of living is the fact that we're letting a bunch of third worlders in. I don't think we'd have nearly this much of an economic problem if we didn't do that. As for the Black Friday kind of culture of everyone pushing and shoving, I've always found that to be incredibly exaggerated. Yeah, there's fights. Yeah, people push and shove. But again, most of that is the stuff you see in the vibrant neighborhoods on World Star Hip Hop. There's something inherently dehumanizing about large crowds, period. Where large crowds.
Are you sure about that? Because I've been to many large crowds, like at Trump rallies, and none of that ever happened.
No, that's different. When you're at a large crowd at a Trump rally, or even a concert where everyone's attention is just focused on one thing, that's different than a large crowd, all of people with specific agendas. Go through any large crowd where people are trying to get somewhere or get to something, and you're going to find people tend to get a bit abrasive. People tend to have to be a bit more assertive in the best of times to get where they need to be. There is something very dehumanizing about being in a large crowd. It's just inherent to it. That said, though, I don't see the real ugly side to it. I've been out to Black Fridays before. I've been out Christmas shopping, and yeah, it's crowded and people get irritated because it takes you 40 fucking light cycles to get through the light, and that pisses people off. But for the most part, people are fine with each other. Now, maybe that's just where I live or something, but I don't see the ugly side of it that much, given the sheer amount of people out there I'm seeing. Of course, you gather up a billion fucking people, you're going to have a bunch of assholes in it just statistically. But I don't see the ugly side of it that often. Yeah, it's crowded, it's pushing and shoving a little bit, and people get pissy and all. Because nobody likes waiting in line. Nobody likes being shoulder to shoulder with people. Nobody likes that. So people are going to be a bit irritated. But for the most part, I don't see the I don't see the ugly side of it. Now that could just be where I'm at. That could just be my area. But
I think it is. I mean, you live in a mostly white area, right? I mean, well, I have been to your area, but like I don't know.
It's largely white, but there's a large segment of Puerto Ricans here.
Well, that's the issue. It's like it's like people who will say like, oh, well, if you don't like being around diversity, you can just move to where white people are. Well, that's the problem. They just keep chasing us wherever we go.
White flight is the only form of ethnic cleansing where the victim is blamed.
Yeah. It's like, you may live in an all white area or primarily white area. It's not going to stay that way for long. Like, why the hell are Somalis being airdropped into Maine and Minnesota? Why are there Mexicans all over Scranton of all places? Why are there Bosniaks and Sudanese all over Syracuse and Utica? I don't like that. And when you're around those crowds, and again, maybe white people are just better behaved in your part of the U.S. But from my retail experience, like, white people were just as rude to me as the minorities. Maybe less physically aggressive, but they were just they were just as annoying in their own respect. Nobody.
I think it's much less a racial thing than the fact that there's a large Christian element in this area.
Yeah, that would probably help. There's not much, most whites in upstate New York are Catholic, or people tend to be pretty a-religious there. There's no evangelical component like you would find in a place like southeastern Pennsylvania.
But yeah, like I said, I mean, there's downsides to it, but I'm happy to see it back. I'm happy that there's a little bit of breathing room, that there's a little bit of hope again. Long term, where exactly that goes, well, I mean, that depends on politically what we do with this, with this breathing room. But I'm happy to see it back. I did not like what I saw on Black Friday in 2009. I did not like the fact that the only things that had, because this was back when the video game industry got it in their heads that they were recession proof, because it took a while for it to hit them. But the only things that were busy were the game stores. And even they were only packed because they're so damn tiny. Game stores and malls are usually these little closets.
I don't know personally. Well, maybe it speaks to my attitude, or maybe I just never got over the distaste of working retail. But when I got laid off as a result of 2008 recession from my Kmart job, I was fucking happy. Number one, because I had a job where I was going to college, so I didn't really need the money. And number two, it meant that I didn't have to work. I didn't have to work at that shitty Kmart anymore. And I especially didn't have to work on Black Friday or any holiday for that matter.
Well, I mean, you were also working at Kmart, so that's part of it. I mean, a Kmart's just inherently depressing. It's just inherently depressing to walk into a Kmart before you even interact with someone.
I don't know. Maybe this is my old like anarchist, anti-capitalist attitude coming in, but like my attitude working there is so strongly influenced me against Kmart that number one, I refuse to shop at Kmart ever again. I think the only time I've stepped in a Kmart as an adult after getting laid off from there was I walked into the Kmart at Penn Station in New York because it was like novel. It's like, oh wow, there's a Kmart in the middle of New York City. I didn't know that. Number two, when the Kmart where I worked shut down a few years ago due to continued losses for the Sears Holding Company, I fucking cheered. I almost fucking threw a party. Just I hate that place and I hate that experience. Maybe I just got the raw end of the stick with regards to the retail experience, the experience of working retail. But I just can't. I just don't like the whole thing. And another thing too is this may single me out as kind of a freak. I don't like gift giving and I don't like gift getting. Like I don't really like receiving gifts because I hate saying this because it makes me sound like some sort of pretentious Buddhist, but I'm not that materialistic. There's really not that much I want. You know, I have simple needs. I like reading books. I like playing video games. Maybe the most expensive thing I don't have that I want right now is one of those Amazon Fire Sticks because it would spare me from having to truck my laptop over to the TV anytime I wanted to watch a movie. But I just don't want for a lot. And most of what I want, I can just buy on my own. I don't see the point of having someone else buy that stuff for me. Like if it's a rare gift or something that I wouldn't be able to have access to, that would be pretty cool. But with regards to giving stuff that I can obtain easily on my own, like I'm not rich or anything, but pretty much anything I want, I can buy. It just seems a bit odd to me. You know, maybe I'm a freak in that regard.
Well, I mean, I don't, you know, this is kind of where I'm going to be defending Christmas here as a concept. Ideally, you have friends and family that know you well enough that they can find things you didn't know existed that you want. I mean, that's kind of where I like giving gifts. That's where I like getting gifts from my friends and family. They know the things I'm into. They know what I like. And they're going to generally find shit that I wasn't aware existed, or I'm going to find stuff for them that they wasn't aware existed. You know, I tell the story, but the one, when I was born, there was a show on called Tales of the Gold Monkey that my dad loved. And he had to miss that show to take my mother to the hospital. And, you know, he always used to tease me a little bit. He's like, you know, I missed Tales of the Gold Monkey for you. Well, I was at a Comic-Con years ago, and you know, there's the guy there selling all the bootleg DVDs, and sure enough, somebody had that show, the complete show, on DVD. You know, it had never even been released on tape, let alone DVD. So I got that for him. You know, it was something unique. He'd never be able, you know, he wouldn't find it anywhere. He hadn't thought of it in years, kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that, you know, I like doing for Christmas. Putting actual thought into things and finding.
Yeah, that's great. Honestly, I would rather receive nothing than receive a gift that's utterly thoughtless. Like I'm not going to name the individual I'm going to talk about because I don't like to talk. I don't like to diss or talk about my family publicly. But one Christmas, when this member of my family discovered that I was going to be moving to Hungary, her idea of a Christmas gift was giving me this little coin pouch that had some leftover euros in it that she didn't spend on a previous trip. And I'm like, you just dug that out of a fucking drawer, okay? The most useful, I did find use for the coin pouch and the euros because I actually did have to buy a birthday gift for a friend of mine passing through on the way. And I used the euros to buy him a bottle of, I used them to buy a bottle of booze at a duty-free shop in Moscow after they refused to take my card. But Jesus, like I just hate that. And I actually know of someone in my family who for Christmas got an extra large thing of like dish soap because like, oh, you're a family now. I just don't like that the thoughtlessness.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's the negative side of it. Like I said, hopefully you have friends and family that actually give a damn about you and know shit about you. I mean, you know, there's lots of family members. I have extended family members that I'm not that close to, and I send them a Christmas card, and that's it. I don't go trying to find them something when I don't know what the hell they want or whatever. But you know, my closest friends, my dad, you know, loved ones like that. Yeah, I get them shit that, you know, I keep an eye out for stuff all months in advance. Like that's what the hell you're supposed to be doing with it. You know, this crap. Oh, well, you know, I mean, it's easy to shop for a kid because the kid ain't got no money. So you just get him what he wants because he can't get it himself.
It tends to be easily satisfied.
You know, but, you know, okay, he wants his toy. He ain't got a job. He can't get it himself. There you go. But yeah, as an adult, you know, most things you want, if you really want it bad enough, you can find a way to afford it generally. But yeah, like I said, I find stuff for people that they didn't even necessarily know existed. That's what I try to find.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, I just don't like the focus on all of it. You know, I would sarcastically say to my mother, I was like, you don't need to get me anything for Christmas. I just want the love of the family, and she hit me. But I just don't like the entire culture that spawned. Okay, I don't mind all the stuff in moderation. You know, the gift giving. You know, yeah, like malls, for example. You know, I criticize the mall thing, but I do like malls. The best malls I've seen in my life were in, of all places, the Philippines. You know, if you go to the Mall of Asia in Manila, the thing is so huge it has an indoor skating rink, which is fucking awesome. There's another mall in Makati called Greenbelt, which has this beautiful outdoor, terrace or whatever with a huge pool full of all these exotic fishes, and you've got all these high-end stores around, and it's just a cool place to walk around and actually take girls on dates. The malls in Hungary were pretty cool too. They weren't spectacular, but they basically functioned like malls used to in the U.S. Like what you say, Beckloff, the town square, the place where people hang out. I don't mind all of that stuff. I just don't like the commercial, the commercialization and the dehumanization of it. Okay, you notice with I've noticed in the U.S., I mean, surely you have as well, the trend away from malls towards strip malls, and basically completely destroying that aspect of it. Like there used to actually be a little small mall where I grew up in Syracuse. Nothing big. It was like, calling it a mall is maybe a bit dramatic. It had like 5 or 6 stores and was anchored by a Phage drugstore or something, but it was neat that it was right by where I grew up. Well, they demolished that like 20 years ago, and they replaced it with a strip mall to indicate and it indicates the transition away from people wanting to interact with each other, hang out, you know, be in a social setting, to people who just want to go in, buy their stuff, and then go back to their little houses. I don't like that aspect of it, and it's seems like malls and the commercialization of Black Friday caters to that mentality. Instead of bringing people together, it just separates them and caters to go in, get out, get your stuff, leave, and go back to your house. There's no interaction. There's no community spirit. There's no community.
Well, that's part of why retail's dying, because they've allowed themselves to be in that. I think if retail wants to, I mean, you know, okay, yeah, there's an upsurge, but the definite trend on retail is that they're dying in favor of things like Amazon and whatnot. But you know, of ordering things online. But if retail wants to continue, they have to be places that are worth going to. You know, like Aaron Clary says to me, he's like, why do you miss the mall? You can just order stuff online. I'm like, well, it wasn't just about getting stuff. Yeah, I would buy things at the mall from time to time, and that was nice. It's nice to have nice things. But it wasn't just about that. It was about having a place to go. You know,
And the thing is, like, I mean, you shit on Europe, but Europe has more of that, even with the stuff that's more Americanized. The malls still function in Hungary like they're supposed to. There are still there was a really cool English language bookstore / coffee shop in Budapest. I like going to, just to fucking walk around and look at books. Browsing books. That's awesome. In the U.S., that experience is increasingly hard to find. There was a bookstore in my old neighborhood in Syracuse that explicitly refused to sell books online because they wanted to be that sort of local experience. You go there and you browse books. You go there and you enjoy a community experience and meet your fellow man. I don't see the Black Friday culture. I don't see the commercial culture, the consumerist culture fostering that in the U.S. at least. I see it actively impeding it.
Well, when I worked retail, the biggest problem I had was not with customers. I mean, yes, some customers were assholes, but whatever. Biggest problem I always had was with the corporate culture itself. I butted heads far more often with the idiotic, policies of my boss than with the customers themselves. I worked at Suncoast back in 2004, and this was during the Christmas season. And Spider-Man 2 had come out on DVD, and some lady, kind of middle-aged woman was buying it. And I asked her if she was getting it for her kid. She's like, "Oh yeah, my son loves Spider-Man," And I was like, "Okay, well." So I walked her over to where they had the '60s cartoon had just come out on DVD. So I basically upsold her into getting this, $50 box set. I'm like, if he's a big Spider-Man fan, there's a good chance he's never seen this. It's almost never rerun on TV. He'd get a real kick out of it. That you'd be the hero of Christmas with this. He probably doesn't even know it's out. So she went ahead and got that on top of getting the movie. My boss then comes out and starts complaining at me that I didn't ask her if she had a Suncoast card, or try and get her the 3 weeks free of Entertainment Weekly that you forget to cancel, and then they charge you for a year. Like that sort of horse shit. I'm like, I just sold a $50 DVD set out of nowhere, right? That I upsold in a way the customer is completely happy with.
It's like when McDonald's workers used to ask you if you wanted to supersize your meal.
But and you see that, and Suncoast. I don't even know if Suncoast exists anymore now. I think it's gone. I think FYE completely swallowed it up, because Suncoast went from being this cool place that sold movies to being this obnoxious place that tried to trick you into getting stuck with a year subscription of Entertainment Weekly.
Which is unfortunate because FYE sucks.
Oh yeah, the FYE in my area is awful. It's like 80% of the floor is like Funko Pops and gross Japanese candy. You can't even find movies there.
Oh really? I mean, I thought it sucked like 10 years ago, because the thing that always mystified me about FYE was how they sold everything for way more than the competitors, yet somehow still turned a profit. I remember walking into the FYE in the mall where I was going to college, and they were selling one of the Hitman games. I forget which one. This was I think it was Hitman Contracts, which was like 4 years old at that point. They were selling it for the full price of $50. I'm like, no, I'm not paying $50 for a game that's 4 fucking years old. How are you turning a profit when you're and the movies? I remember the DVDs were more expensive than what you could get at Best Buy or whatever. The problem, of course, was in my little shit splat town. FYE was the only place that carried some more of the more esoteric foreign and indie films that I liked. So you couldn't get those at Best Buy. You couldn't get those at we didn't have a Barnes and Noble. We had a little Borders that was like a quarter of the size of a regular Borders. Yeah, remember Borders? Remember that?
Oh, I loved Borders. I miss Borders. Barnes and Noble's okay, but Borders was way better.
Well, that brings another issue as well. Like how these the big problem with one of the big problems with Black Friday and all the cultures, it's forced by all these corporations that have basically swallowed up local businesses. Everyone's talked there's been reams of ink spilled on how Walmart has completely distorted and destroyed local economies. But Borders and Barnes & Noble basically wiped out a lot of independent bookstores, and then Borders went tits up. Barnes & Noble's teetering on the edge. These companies, they grow too fast. They can afford to outcompete and wipe out smaller competitors, and then when the economy goes bust, they go out of business and leave entire communities without access to basic services.
Yeah.
In general,
I'm not a big fan of Walmart or I shop at Target a decent amount, but that's just because.
In general, small local businesses treat their workers better, treat their customers better because they have a connection to the community. They have a small business is run by someone who is known in the community, someone who is connected to the community, someone who's maybe lived there for years, someone who has roots going back generations. They're going to treat the community with respect because, for the same reason that you would treat your own house with respect, or you treat your family with respect. You don't shit what you eat. You respect your lineage. You respect your tribe. Corporations don't care. Corporations, big faceless corporation that's based several states away, has hundreds of stores. They're just going to focus on squeezing as much profit out as they can through abusing their workers, through undercutting their competitors, for screwing over their customers. I think a more local approach to all of this would be a lot better.
Well, I'll give you an example of how that mentality, goes too far. The town I live in, in the southern end of Lancaster County, there's nothing down here. There is simply nothing down here. There are a couple of pizza places, and there are 2 grocery stores in this town that I live in down here. Well, there was going to be a Walmart put in here, and I saw every old fuck throw a big old hissy fit and throw every kind of zoning law to shut it down, because they were afraid of ruining the local businesses, quote unquote. But there are no local businesses down here. There is nothing down here already. If you want anything other than a pizza place or a gas station or a grocery store, you're driving a half an hour. The Walmart would have been actually a benefit to this town, and everybody had the knee-jerk reaction against something that wasn't local, when there's nothing local here. There simply isn't.
Well, realistically, Beckloff, I've been to your town. It's not that big. How many businesses can a town like that reasonably support? I don't,
It could support a Walmart. And actually, part of the reason it didn't go in there, you get this insane mentality with some of the evangelicals, but they weren't going to be able to put it in there if there wasn't going to be a liquor license. Because Walmart didn't want to go in there if there wasn't going to be some restaurant, something like an Olive Garden or something along those lines. Those middle tier kind of restaurants that usually have a bar. And they wouldn't rescind the dry laws, because all these old ladies are like, there's going to be these seedy bars come in and all the bad characters. It's like, no, they're going to put a Ruby Tuesdays there. Okay, what are you whining about?
Wait, your town is a dry town?
My little what is it? Township is a dry township. Yes.
Oh, okay. That sucks. But yeah, I understand that mentality, but
it definitely goes too far in the opposite direction. This town would have benefited from a Walmart. It completely would have benefited. And I don't even like Walmart. I can't. Again, if I go to one of those places, usually Target, they're, for whatever reason, they always seem to be a little nicer. But
I get the idea. I get the idea. I've lived in rural, semi-rural, suburban areas, and it does suck to have to basically drive half an hour to get to anywhere or go to anywhere. For a period of time, I was commuting to work 45. I had a reverse commute. I was lived in a city and I went and commuted to a rural area, 45 minutes a day, and there was nothing where I was working. So I understand how that'd be frustrating, but if you bring in a Walmart to a small town, the Walmart is just Walmart has infinite resources. They can just throw money at everything. Well, not infinite, but way more than the local businesses. They can outcompete everyone and destroy the local character and basically.
Well, I think there's one way they can't, and that's Walmart's never gonna. If you're certain businesses are always going to be able to survive because they're specialty businesses and they're always going to have a certain amount of selection. Walmart sells books, but you don't go to Walmart to buy books. You go to a bookstore because, unless you happen to want the, top 5 things on the New York Times bestseller or a Joel Osteen book, you don't go to Walmart. So there are certain ways I think the small businesses can compete with these things. I mean, hell, we had a hardware store kind of near my area that managed to survive for a very long time next to a Tractor Supply, and only ended up going under. And I know this firsthand because it changed hands to a new owner, and the new owner was retarded and ran it into the dirt. Because he was, expanding and spending money like a drunken sailor. But for the longest time, it survived right next to a Tractor Supply because it had the more, specialty things.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. I just don't like the idea of corporatizing everything and nationalizing everything. There's no aspect of it as well economically. Small businesses, local businesses, when you spend money at them, that gets reinvested into the local community, through indirectly, directly, wages paid, charitable contributions, stuff like that. You pay money to a Walmart, that money's going to fucking Walmart. It's being taken out of the community. On a macro level, this is why it's bad to let your manufacturing sector or your any sector be taken over by like a foreign company, because all that money is now no longer going to your fellow citizens. It's going to some corporation in Germany or Japan or whatever. We've seen I've seen this across upstate New York. Not just Walmart, but all these other big corporations. They come in and they hollow out the local economy. There's nothing left.
They can do that, but I think there's ways small businesses. I'll give you, GameStop is the big game store, that it runs all the mom and pop stores out of business. But in my area, in my podunk nothing fucking county, I have 4 retro game stores. 3 are of one company. Just Press Play has 3 locations in my county and 1 in the next county over. And they started off, at having a stand at a flea market. Now they do obviously retro games that GameStop doesn't do, but they do find business in the current games because it's a nicer place to go to. It has a better selection. It has a more knowledgeable staff. Again, it has the upside of having all the retro shit. It competes just fine with GameStop. GameStop is shrinking in my county. GameStop had to close a couple of locations while the little guy expanded. There's ways around it. I agree that there's a harmful aspect of it, but there's times when it's nice to have the big store, but also I don't know. I think the mom and pop stores, I think there's a lot of times when the local stores only survived because there was nothing else and they were run very poorly. And then in came a big corporation that was streamlined, and the people made a choice and they said, I'm going to go to it might not even have been the price. It might just have been, it's a nicer store. It's better selection. I mean, Walmart's prices aren't that damn low. I know they have this reputation of these insanely low prices. Walmart's prices are normal. They're not that low. Hell, they have this reputation of being cheaper than Target, and half the time I don't even find that's the case. It just has this reputation of the low prices because for a while when Walmart was super competitive, it did, but it doesn't now. It just has normal, standard retail prices on everything.
No, I think what's happening from your description and from what I've been hearing back in the States and from what I've just been observing generally, that there's a move in general back towards localism and back towards back towards community and back towards tangible things. I've noticed this in general. This is semi-related. Well, it is related. My website / soon to be publisher Terror House magazine. We ran a poll over the past couple of days asking people what format they prefer to read books in. We had 4 options. This is a Twitter poll. We had 4 options: paperback, hardcover, ebook, Kindle or whatever, and audiobook. And when I had the poll put up, I thought that paperbacks and ebooks would draw even, because that's been my experience in publishing books over the past few years. Ebooks generally sell roughly the same way, if a little more than paperback physical books. But the results of the poll were shocking. 60% of the respondents, now to be fair, we only had about 150 or so responses. 60% of the respondents said they preferred paperback. 20% said they preferred ebook, and then hardcovers and ebook audiobooks were made up the remaining 20%. That was a surprise, and to me, I mean, again, it's a small audience. It's reflective of I don't know how reflective Terror House is of the general reading public, but I've heard the same things from guys like Roosh and whatnot. People are shifting back towards physical products, in part because, like, say, censorship of Amazon. They deleted off ebooks that people have purchased before. People are pissed off the way these companies have been treated, and people prefer tangible products. They want
you don't own it. If you have I mean, I understand for the space issues why a lot of people go with digital media. I get that. It's nice to have a little flash drive with all your shit on it. I get that. But the late Stan Lee once said about comics, talking about digital comics, he said comics are like boobs. It's nice to see them on a screen, but you'd much rather hold them in your hand.
Yeah, I mean,
there's something to the human soul where, I mean, even if you're just reading, you'd rather hold a book in your hand. And you own it that way. You could sell it. You could give it to somebody. You could choose to be buried with it like a fucking pharaoh if you want. It's yours.
Yeah. Plus, there's the more seedy aspect of it, where it's like you can have all these books and brag to people about like how sophisticated your reading your talents are. I remember passing a bookstore in Evanston, the suburb of Chicago. I saw the collected drawings of Jill Elfman, who, if you don't know him, he was if you've seen like those little cheesecake like nudie women drawings from the 50s, that style, like, he was one of the guys who did that. So I went and I just bought that book for like, it was like $25. I haven't even read it. I just put it on my fucking coffee table, and girls thought that was fucking hilarious. Like, oh wow, you're so retro and you're so kinky. It's a great coffee table book if you're looking to get laid. But the point is that I see this shift everywhere. Hell, I've had conversations with an Australian friend of mine. He's talking about the differences in socialization between millennials and like younger millennials, Generation Z, Zoomers. Generation Z, the younger kids, they're spurning like electronic devices in a way that millennials don't. They view them as purely utilitarian. That they use them like to text people and contact and whatnot, but they don't hover over them in the same way that like millennials and to a lesser extent Gen Xers do. I see this. People I see are observing the same thing. I think it's a good thing that this localism is happening, and it may just my complaints about the whole Black Friday culture will just solve themselves in that regard.
Yeah, And you mentioned the seedier aspects, as it were, the more almost selfish aspects. I mean, I'm a nerd. I know what it's like to want to kind of build a collection. I genuinely like having a shelf full of all these old retro games. It just looks cool, if nothing else. Now, yeah, I don't have them just to have them. I got them because I like playing them. But nonetheless, it looks cool to have built a shelf over them. And, if I had them all on a little flash drive and ran them on an emulator on my laptop, I guess I could still play them, but it's not the same, There's no other way around it. It's not the same. It's just not as cool. Now, yeah, if I was, traveling the world like you are, I understand wanting to condense space and all, but I've got myself a nice little home here. So...
Well, another aspect of it is I'm a PC gamer primarily, and like older PC discs, getting to work on newer computers is really a bitch. It's nice to be able to get like a game off of Steam and it just works, or GOG, and it just works instantly without having to go for all the configuration issues, installing patches and whatnot. And with books, I love my Kindle. It's a fantastic thing for convenience, but books are just awesome. I've actually assembled a little nice collection of books here. A friend of mine who was moving out of his apartment in Budapest gave me a shit ton of them. Maybe I shouldn't have them because when I emigrated to Georgia a few months ago, all the books in my carry-on bags raised the alarm of the immigration staff, and they pulled me aside for 2 hours in secondary, photographing every single book I had and asking me why I had them. That was amusing.
Well, plus, I mean, I've always had a lot of books, and for a while in my life, I had a lot of comic books, and books are fucking a pain in the ass to move. You don't think a book is too heavy until you're hauling boxes and boxes of them, and then you realize, oh yeah, these are actually made of wood, aren't they? just really, really thin strips of wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
They can be a pain in the ass to store and move and all that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, I like having it. I like having the physical stuff. I've always been that way. And you don't own it if you don't have it in physical media. So I'm glad to see a pushback to that.
Well, it depends slightly. I mean, like when I sell direct ebooks through my website, matt40books.com. If you buy like direct from me, you do own the ebook as long as you have the physical file and can download it. Like, but with Amazon, obviously you don't. That is a problem. But I do like this movement, and I suspect honestly we agree on this more than we disagree. It's just more of a
we're just busting each other.
There's no danger of us doing dueling live streams in about an hour, calling each other liars.
Yeah. Neither one of us is going to join a cult after this.
No. I was looking into the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they're as what's his face said, it's Scientology for Black people. It's very diverse, so it's safe in the coming years.
Yeah, but don't the Mormons don't they let you form a harem? That's kind of nice.
Yeah, but the problem is all the girls have anal gonorrhea.
Yeah, I guess that's a downside.
I'm not making that up, by the way. Look it up. There was an outbreak of anal gonorrhea at Brigham Young a few years back.
Anal gonorrhea. Good Lord. the often forgotten sequel to gonorrhea.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of bullshit about Mormons that like people used to spread this rumor that like Mormons like young Mormons would they drive to Vegas, they'd get a legal marriage, they'd fuck for a weekend, then they'd get the marriage annulled and go back home. That's bullshit. That's not happening. But anal gonorrhea, that shit was real. It was in fucking medical papers.
Is that virginal slut mentality? Because I've seen a little bit of this with evangelical girls, where they consider anal and oral sex doesn't count. They're still a virgin. Is that what caused that?
Yeah, basically. Like, I think with Brigham Young, they have to take if not a purity pledge, something similar to not engage in ungodly behavior. It's basically the evangelical or like Muslim culture of purity on steroids. And plus the Mormons have a rep for pretty like in the 1800s, syphilis was so common among Mormons that they had to invent something called Mormon tea that purported to cure both syphilis and gonorrhea. So they're no strangers to having entire portions of their bloodline struck blind by STDs.
I've often heard a rumor that there's an insane amount of closeted gay guys in the Mormon Church. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that was a rumor going around for a while.
Well, I mean, if you remember what's his face, Egg McMuffin from 2016, that dude was like 40. He was unmarried, and keep in mind that's pretty weird. Like in
Mormons,
Utah, like,
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, the average marriage age in Utah is like 24, and Utah County, which is the one of the major counties that are heavily populated, it has a higher fertility rate than Bangladesh. That wasn't just the weirdest thing about him. It's like he was unmarried and 40, and his mother was a lesbian who divorced her husband to take up with another woman. That shit's common in the LDS church. Very, very common. Trust me. How Beckloff feels about the Amish, I feel about the Mormons. I do not like them at all.
Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like you said, we didn't even have that much of a disagreement. I just thought this would be a fun live stream. And my main beef was with the types. The ones that are out there counter signaling about how they're so much smarter than everybody because I didn't go to the Black Friday shop. Yeah, the smug. That's the main thing I was like. And there is an element to where, and again, 10, 15 years ago, I was like, yeah, Black Friday's stupid. I'm always done by Thanksgiving because I'm better than everybody, because I was an asshole, fucking 20-something-year-old. But then I saw the stuff go away, and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad it's back a little bit. I'm kind of glad to see people out there in the hustle and bustle and buying dumb shit for each other again. I'm glad that we can once more. I'm glad people feel like they can. Yeah, people should be putting a lot more thought into gifts than they do, and I get that. It's why not to show my own stuff, but I made 2 holiday shopping guides on this channel for people into geeky shit. On how to get your geek friends something without just going out and buying a dumb Funko Pop for them. And so, yeah, I mean, put some thought into it, but get your loved ones some good gifts, damn it.
Yes,
it's Jesus' birthday. Enough's enough.
And be sure to hug them because they might be gone next year.
Yeah, enjoy the time with your friends and family too. That's the other thing. Get together with people. Have people over. Nobody has anybody over anymore. We all just want to sit in our basements and we're going to stream our entertainment and we're going to order our shit online, and nobody wants to go anywhere or do anything. Have some people over for fuck's sake. If you have a place to put up a fucking tree, put up a fucking tree and have people over and have them see your damn tree. Like, enjoy the holiday. Just enjoy the time about it. Don't sit there and sneer at it like a lot of people. Oh, I'm not like these sheeples. Like that's the main thing that was pissing me off with a lot of people. I mean, I'm not on Twitter, but I could still log into my Twitter account that's suspended and see people's accounts. You know what I mean? So I can still observe people, and I'm like, look at these fucking people. Well, and what one person I'm not going to name, he was mouthing off about Black Friday, and I'm like, don't give me that shit. I know the reason you didn't do Black Friday is because you're both broke and you have no one to buy things for, anyways. So,
is it who I'm thinking of?
Might be.
Well, I'll ask you when we go off here.
Yeah, I think it is. But the point is, like, if you have family, be thankful for it. If people, if you have people that exchange gifts and all, be thankful for that. Be thankful for the fact that the economy's picking up a bit here these past years. Yeah, maybe it's not going to last, but ultimately nothing does in this world. So be thankful for it. I may not like most of the trappings of Thanksgiving because I don't like turkey and I don't like football. But I like the idea of it. Yes, be thankful for shit. And maybe even be thankful for the stuff that annoys you. Because, sometimes it's worse when it's gone. All right, Forney. Well, thanks for being on. It's always great having you on.
No problem, man. This was entertaining.
And like I said, shameless plug. Check out my 2 holiday shopping guides. There's for geeks. Check those out. Lots of great ideas.
Yeah, definitely. Also remember to hit that like button, like your Chris Brown hitting Rihanna, and subscribe and hit that damn bell.
Yeah, hit the bell, hit the subscribe thing, like, comment, subscribe.
Send Mammons via PayPal, Patreon, and crypto.
Oh, that reminds me. I just got, thank you to whoever sent it. I just got in the mail today. I know Sunday, but sometimes my postman is really shitty, and he's always finishing up on Sunday. So I got, by Martin Luther, on the Jews and their lies off my Amazon wish list. So I'll be doing a review of that. I am really hitting my books hard because I got a reading pile off Amazon that I'm really banging away on.
Of the Jews and their lies.
I've
read it. I mean, I just think that's
is that the exact title?
It is the exact title is like
yeah, it's something German, but what is it? On the Jews and their lies, his classic warning about the Jews and their hatred of Jesus by Martin Luther. So yeah,
is it a modern translation or is it one of the ones that's actually good? I hope it's not one of those faggoty translations that like tries to couch it for modern like.
Well, given that the subtitle is his classic warning about the Jews and their hatred of Jesus, I'm going to say that this isn't a pussified translation.
Sure. Well,
it's not like the subtitle was Martin Luther's anti-Semitic rants. So I'm going to think that maybe they're being faithful to the source material. So yeah, and I haven't really taken a big look at it because I do kind of like to be surprised, but I have noticed my Amazon wish list looks a little shorter than it did about a week ago. So to any one of you that got me something off there, I do appreciate it. I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful to all you that listen too. So that's about all we got for tonight, folks. Thank you all for listening, and Beckloff out.